Hello, everybody. Welcome to Your Voice Talk Show, interactive platform where your voice matters. We have real conversations. My name is Sonia Baring Graham. For those that may be tuning in for the very first time, author of It's Time to Uncover Your Original Blueprint 10 Steps to Uncover the Real You and Your Real Purpose. So, I'm not sure if you've been following the promotion, but this is a show that I am so excited to talk about. Between the water cooler conversations, friends with your girlfriends, family members, menopause is a real thing. So on the show, I promised you we're going to talk about things that affect us on a daily basis and come up with tools and bring in experts to help us. So today, to talk about menopause, we actually have a menopause expert. So joining us today, we have Dr. LaReesa Ferdinand, and she is here to tell us the truth against the myths and the real stuff about menopause. I'm gonna give you her bio. So Dr. LaReesa Ferdinand is a interactive gynecologist, menopause health expert, owner and CEO of Thrive Beyond Wellness Center and the Estrogen Doctor Consulting Services. Larissa helps women improve hormone balance to live more productive, powerful, and performance-driven lives. Through premenopause, through perimenopause, and beyond, in 2020, she was named one of the top OBGYN physicians in the Orlando Family Magazine. She is a best-selling contributing author of Codes of Longevity, Be Ageless, Live Limitless, and serves as women's health advisor to Bossa Bars Inc., a menopause brand energy bar. Dr. Larissa's medical background, coupled with integrative precision wellness tools, help create a personalized experience for women and advances clinical applications in an emerging global firm tech market. Her value driven mission is to create a transformative experience through the whole body connection where women are valued, heard, and understood. Heal women, heal the world. I love that. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy Sunday.
Absolutely. Beautiful, hot, a little steamy, but we're inside in the air, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the first question I want to ask you is, being from the OBGYN background, what inspired you to focus in on the women wellness as far as like menopause and things that affect us on a daily basis?
Because it's necessary, right? I think you hit it on right on the nail. You recognize there are taboo topics out there. For example, I recognize there's conversations amongst even my short crew of friends, or people calling me or referring other friends, sorority sisters, people I probably haven't met, about similar threads of questions. And what I quickly realized, just like with a lot of things, we are definitely in an information age, and we have so much access to information. And especially when we were kind of forced, definitely, to more virtual platforms, online platforms. But that's the thing, there's a lot of stuff out there, and you don't know exactly how it applies to you, what is information, misinformation. Is this something I can go to my doctor about? It's still confusion in the era of the information age. So I love it. I love women's health. This is definitely my groove, and those areas that, I can relate. I just had a birthday on Thursday, so I'm well into that 40 something, closer to 50 now. And these are conversations we just need to have.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, I hit the big 59 this year, so I'm a little late, but I'm glad I've got you now to get those answers.
You're never too late. Never
It's
too
all good. So, can you tell me what's the interactive approach to women's health and what's happening to a woman's body as it goes through premenopause or to menopause?
late. Yeah. So what I mean by the integrative approach is many of us, we're aware of like our traditional model. You know, you make an appointment to the doctor if you're sick, or for a preventive wellness visit, whether it's for women a pap smear or to do your annual exam. And then the scope of OBGYN has often, of what I experience a lot, has kind of replaced for a woman that primary care visit if there's nothing else really going on. And what it does, it adds a more holistic approach, meaning that you're going to integrate mental factors, social factors, and potentially other areas of medicine that can complement a more whole person approach. Because our current model of our systemic health care system is very entangled. The system is a lot of red tape, a lot of confusion. And with that, you can get kind of lost in translation. And this allows a better model of a whole person, whole mind, body, spirit, and I also like to add, and hormones approach to women's health, with understanding, yes, it's a pain point, but how can we become more proactive and really look at a full picture of healing?
Yes, that's real. That's powerful. And I did want to tell our audience, remember, this is an interactive show, so please chime in your comments. Start now at any time, and we'll be getting to some of those comments and making sure we relay those questions to get those questions answered for you guys. We have the expert here, so this is the best time to get those questions answered. So let's go ahead and go to a question. Tracy Michelle, can we go ahead and go into this? Because I really want to make sure our guests participate today as much as possible.
Yes, ma'am. How are you all?
Good.
Good. Andrea Ashley has a question, and she's asking, how long does menopause actually last?
How does menopause actually, say it again, how long does
how long does it actually last?
And I think this will be a good question that I can kind of hit a couple of things on. So let's just start with a basic definition of menopause. Menopause is the absence of a menstrual cycle or bleeding for 12 months. Or technically, if you've had a hysterectomy, it may be hard to differentiate that based on that definition. And hysterectomy, I'm using in terms of your uterus has been removed, maybe not your ovaries, because in layman's terms, that may be considered a partial hysterectomy versus a full hysterectomy. And this is kind of making sure we understand some of the terminology, and we can use that as our baseline throughout our conversations and stuff today. However, average age of menopause is around 51. But some women can start feeling the changes of menopause much earlier, even as early as their mid-30s, even though commonly early 40s is a time what we call perimenopause, which is that time around before your cycle actually ends. But not necessarily saying let's just keep it there at the cycle. It may be just certain symptoms that you may start experiencing. And some women can go through this for 3 to 7, 9, 10 years without the total absence of this bleeding for 12 months. And I usually like to put it in like in my 5 M's. And most of the time you may notice some mood changes where you may feel like, wait a minute, am I having out-of-body experiences? Did my body, break up with me? My spouse or my partner doesn't want to be around me. People, your family members will notice these type of mood changes, and you feel like you overreact a little bit more than what you used to, or your coping mechanisms may not be there. Menstrual disorders, or M is the other one, where you may have a loss of cycle, but it may come back, and it's like this on and off, back and easy relationship type thing. The other one is momentum. Fatigue is very big, for women, are not feeling, very energetic or feel more robust or feel like, okay, you're reaching for that second or third cup of coffee, or you feel like, you're just dragging through the day and have really lost a lot of your momentum. Mental health, I'm glad that this is really taking a platform of awareness now, but it's something that we've known for quite some time, right? We're just starting to have more focused conversation. But this is where women may experience increased depression or anxiety, or just on edge more. Just the wrap of different symptoms that can happen with that can, make it very altered. And then another one is moisture. Moisture in the vagina or changes in the vagina. And all of these things can affect your sleep. It can affect how often you have hot flushes or not. And so when we talk about the scope of hormones and menopause, with that in mind, all of these symptoms are representative of your ovaries that are starting to decline, in a lot of some key hormones that you made more robustly in your 20-something or early 30-something years. And then you have the impact of hormonal disruptions from stress, from lifestyle, from changes. These are midlife is a time where we may be going through changes in our relationship, divorce, kids going away. All of these kind of things impact, where it can also impact the duration that you experience like these symptoms. So even if we're using in the scope of that definition, understand all of us have a different journey. And with that different journey, our experience or our symptoms or our pain points may look a little different.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. And there's a lot to it. So the other question.
Yes, Renelle Winfrey. What can you do for menopause when there is a heavy presence of breast cancer history?
I like this question because there's a lot of fear. The big C within itself is always going to bring some, angst and difficulty of really understanding how it applies to me and family history. So my approach to this, especially if I have someone comes to me with the same question or same concern, or they may have it in their history and they haven't really connected the dots as much, is really identifying, okay, what is that breast cancer history related? Is it first degree history or et cetera? And then what are your particular symptoms that you're experiencing? Because there are less hereditary related breast cancers percentage wise than there are non-hereditary breast cancer associations. So when you think of it that way, unless you have a known BRCA mutation, which is what we know as the breast cancer gene mutation meaning the defect in the actual gene that makes you more prone or higher risk of having breast cancer. If that doesn't necessarily apply to you, evaluating what are your particular symptoms or issues within menopause, there's definitely a scope or framework, one that particularly I use. I like to discover what are those things or the background that that presents a problem, and how is it impairing your life, right? How are you suffering? What is the dysfunction or the malfunction that you feel like, hey, I just feel off. This is just not me. I'm not thriving. I'm just surviving, right? And then defining what that may look for you, because this is the thing, we're some tough cookies, I have to say, and speaking for someone who's had endometriosis and I've experienced, chronic or, pelvic pain and menstrual problems, I would still show up for work. I would still, do all the things for everyone before myself. So I'm guilty of that. But at the same time, we have to put a boundary on how much we plan on suffering and how that is functioning with our body. Because when we put that together with breast cancer history, technically, all of the things that I mentioned with the stressors or the things that we tend to put in its place in order to, keep pushing, actually it causes our bodies to become more inflamed. We make poor choices about food and nutrition and everything. And guess what? Those things can cause our body over time to not be able to adapt as well. And that's when we have irregularities in our system and how our body reacts. Therefore, we can't defend things like chronic disease or heart disease, stroke, which is higher amongst women technically than cancer, and it's specifically breast cancer. So when we look at it, that whole body or that whole person approach, and not necessarily, like, okay, sick, let's do sick, we become more proactive with not only the right solutions, but knowing what are the exact questions or the better questions that really define what we need to do for ourselves. So there's much you can do despite even having a family history, but really nailing down and defining what that looks like for you and what you're comfortable with really will make the difference.
That's good. And before we go to the next question, I wanted to kind of hone in on us as women. You made a point to say how strong we are, how resilient we are, and it's so true. It's so true to the fact that in some ways it's alarming and not well, because we push past the things that we should pay attention to, but we pay attention for other people. And it's, as women, we discount a lot of things because, we think we're supposed to suck everything up and keep it moving because we're the ones that's holding everything together. So when I think of menopause and the change, and it's called all different kinds of things that people talk about, it's like, it's one of those things. But in the promo I put, it's time for us to stop suffering in silence. And what I mean by that is discounting how we feel. And what I love what you said is that so many parts to it, and we have to begin to identify for us what those things are so we can better deal with them individually. It's not like a whole one solution for everything. And that's kind of how people go, okay, what do I do for menopause? Like, let me go buy this one pill or do these things. But like you mentioned, there's so many components. You got mental health and the different things that you go through. The fact that it can cause inflammation, and we know inflammation causes so many things that affect the body. So this is powerful because it's giving me a better understanding. And when you say holistic, it's the whole person, the whole body, the whole person, not just that situation that you're going through, because there's bigger pieces of it. But I pray as women, we begin to give ourselves grace and start to understand it's okay when we have days we don't feel good. And if we need to lay in the bed, some days we need to lay in the bed. We just have to be okay to take care of ourselves and know that we don't have to be Wonder Woman every day. And what we're experiencing is not in our heads, so this is powerful information. Elizabeth, let's go ahead and hear what Miss Elizabeth Rodriguez, her question is. Tracy Michelle, please.
Okay. Elizabeth asks, is there a window of opportunity for someone in menopause to begin hormones?
Yes. Essentially, the earlier you are placed on hormones, that's where the science backs up the better outcomes when it comes to being placed on hormones. But can someone initiate hormone therapy at a later age of going through menopause? Absolutely. However, I will say that I have nothing against hormone therapy because hormones are powerful things. I like to use them as kind of like a synonym for like women. They're negotiators, they're communicators, they are navigators. They do a lot within our system. And estrogen within itself has hundreds of different responsibilities and properties that go from brain function to metabolism and regulating blood sugar. So when we think about hormone therapy, there's a lot of fear around it. And that's the thing. Anything that gravitates fear, of course, is like, hey, I don't want to do this. Yeah. But that's the thing. I don't want to throw pink slime on people who decide to do it or not. I just want to make sure that I'm sharing a guide to, okay, it may be for you, but if it's not, then let's kind of see what else is in this toolkit. Because when you begin hormone therapy, you do need to be with the right practitioner, someone. In my preference, my mission is to change generational health All right. My mission is to help women see not only the whole body connection, but understand that a lot of this is wrapped into our human experiences that we have, is wrapped in our connection with our lifestyle and our communities, because we're part of every life cycle, right? Women are part of, that's why I say heal women, heal the world. And so if hormones wrapped in with the right experience, the right physician, there's some types of hormones that are safer than others. I'll definitely tie that into this response as well. And understanding that you can tweak certain things, that part of hormone therapy as well is stress management. Part of hormone therapy as well is making sure that you are optimizing your nutrition and exercising. Part of hormone therapy, and all of these things optimize hormone therapy. Because guess what? It's the same things that optimize you when you're not in menopause. It's the same ingredients oftentimes, because you want to maximize the best output. And so when we talk about there's some types of hormones that are safer than others, there's literally, when you look on the internet or when you talk to different people or different experts out there, you may get a little differing of opinions here, and that's fine. However, I'm very stringent along the lines of things that tend to be more related to what the body forms naturally, which is what we consider bioidentical hormones. So that means these are hormone replacement therapies, or hormone therapy that is more related to what your tissues or what your body was naturally, excuse me, forming on its own before the decline going into menopause. And so when we see that, thanks Tony Michelle, I'm looking at the comments as well, it makes a difference, because you may be someone, depending on whether your medical history, whether you have a uterus or not, or what have you, but estrogen is very key in a lot of the things that makes us a woman. And we produce very high amounts of estrogen when we're younger. And technically, these are the same properties that keep vessel integrity, meaning your blood vessels in your body, that help with cognitive abilities, that help with skin, love of our skin, and sexual health. And so there's many things. And so to have a formulation of something like estrogen or testosterone, progesterone, or DHEA, the main point I want to come across is to really find a practitioner or a healthcare professional that you can trust, that doesn't dismiss your symptoms, that can sit there and have a conversation and know that you are well informed, so you feel comfortable with that decision you're going to make, just like you would feel comfortable with taking a high blood pressure medication or something for diabetes or what have you, because hormone optimization can really open up to lifestyle optimization, whether you decide to start on hormones or not.
That's good. That's really good information. So
Very
I
good.
heard about the bioidentical ones. That's really good information.
Okay, we have a gentleman now who wants to ask a question. And is there such a thing as menopause? I think there is.
Yes. Scientifically, we may call it andropause. Even though we may not go into a lot of details with it, but definitely. And I've heard someone joke about, well, I think men go through it the same time their women or their spouse or their partner may, because they may be so closely connected, kind of like back in the day when we talk about if we had a house full of sisters or moms, like all of us were on that period at the same time. So I guess it's that cross reference for men as well. So it's mostly indicated by the decline that can happen as men get older in testosterone deficiency, where they may experience testicular dysfunction or erectile dysfunction, fatigue, notice more weight gain, or just kind of, if it's not the change in cognitive, which is something similar, all these things are have some kind of correlation for women as well, but they just feel out of tune, And there's a book out there that I'm reading presently by Louise Brezdine. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but it's called The Upgrade. And what I do appreciate about what she says in this time period, it's an upgrade. And it's interesting because I teach women, this is the time of your next breakthrough, even though you feel like you're going or maybe going to your next breakdown. And the same thing for men. This is a time where your purpose and your identity may change. This is a time where you may start refocusing on something other than your children, and it's okay. This may be a time where you decide, where I never did get a chance to do this. I love hearing the stories of the 80-year-old bodybuilders and the people who just got their, their college or high school diploma, at later ages, because technically it is a shift, right? It is a shift. And so it really does, it's like a mindset thing, where even though you may experience these other things that they may identify it as your womanhood or your manhood, you can find a solution and dang, get on to the next thing, get on to your next goal, your bucket list, or what have you, because all of those things actually are going to be that boost that you need for that next upgrade, for your next breakthrough. Because we know, as we've learned in this pandemic, life is short, and burnout, which I've experienced, and all these other things, you can really reset your priorities. And if you're someone, there's stuff out there, that's the thing, that can assist and help. And if you're experiencing it with your spouse, having open communication about those things help. I'm learning that myself, and and it makes a big difference.
Wow,
Great,
that's
great information. Really good. Let's see. There's another question that he asked. Why is that menopause, starts and stops at times with various women?
I guess I need a little clarification. Let me read it again.
I'm thinking, are you speaking about symptoms, Farrell, perhaps?
I think what he's speaking of is like they may have it, and then all of a sudden they say they don't have it anymore. And then
for the man or the woman,
they have it again, or something,
Women.
that they're going through the symptoms of it, maybe.
Women.
Okay. Because it can have variations, and there are a few things that let's just take, for example, hot flushes. And this is what I may get a lot when it comes to women. Hey, I've stopped my period a long time ago, and now they've come back up again, or they, I feel like they're worse, or what have you. And there are different things that I address this with. One, I address with lifestyle, what I call lifestyle gators, because nutrition, exercise do play a part. And the reason why I'm gonna say this, because I want to say it differently than other people out there to say just lose weight or what have you. No, I want to push you to think fat is metabolically active. All right. And so if there is a hormone dysfunction where you have disruptors in your environment and your food, that is also mimicking what your hormones may or may not do in different frequency and in different strength or capacity, right? And so what I mean by that is if it's high caffeine, if you drink a little bit more, if you have a loss of sleep, or even that may cause variations of your hot flushes and your night sweats, especially if you're not taking anything. Or if you've been placed on a new medication, and you might have medications and supplements, let me tell you, that's usually my first thing that I will, next to the first thing that I do to reevaluate why has someone come to see me, because some of the things that we just kind of, hey, I don't need to tell my doctor about, could be the same thing that maybe having interactions with something that you're taking. And then you add these other lifestyle gators to it, between nutrition, exercise, fat that could be metabolically active because of weight gain or these type of things. You can have a variation of frequency and severity of just even hot flashes that make a big difference of like the solution or the outcome that you need.
This question says, what are ways we can help women understand that focusing on their health through menopause is a necessity and impacts their overall health, especially when we consider all of the physiological and emotional challenges we face during menopause?
I appreciate this, and I'm glad this question came back up. And and I really want to focus on this for not a lot, but when I see this goes back to what we had started talking about when we talk about the holistic approach and the whole person approach. I'm someone that when I look at the news or I look at something, I always think, what is the ripple effect, right? What is that ripple effect that goes even beyond technically policy or political? Because at the same time, there's some kind of effect on the family and that person. And so just let's give an example. The pandemic itself has also been called a time of the great retirement, or a time where people had large transition of bringing children back in home virtually, or for that sense of the matter, being laid off. Those are major traumatic experiences on top of something else. And then you have hormones that could be, in menopause that are on a decline. And whether they've been addressed or whether we've just been kind of winging it, doing, what have you. But all of these things are affecting you at some point, from your brain, your sleep, the way you function, your sexual health, your relationships. I always talk about commodities. Some of the greatest commodities that we have are the things that are going to be priceless, but at the same time that they can ruin a day, or they can factor a day. And that is your time. If you have a waste of time or some kind of compromise of time, your relationships, losing someone or a spouse that lost a job or something, or being the breadwinner all the time, money, of course, and your energy, And so when you talk about those commodities and their energy inset, and when you have a biological circadian change, it's just like saying that, not being able to have those rears or those rudders to kind of stir you, get you back on track quicker. It's like you find yourself kind of derailing further and further off course. And so, yes, you cannot avoid that something of in your private life may not affect your biochemistry. It's something we've known all the time. That's why stress is a big factor. That's why food is a big factor. That's why all of those things. And so if we as women, or our spouses or partners or family members and those caregivers out there don't recognize that, as we age, or mature in age, this is still a time for us to start ruddering ourselves back on track and understanding that these things do impact us. That regardless of whatever power pose or whatever you got to do in the morning to play Superwoman, we can have many dysfunctions that our body adapts to, until your body will you'll feel like you've hit a brick wall. All of a sudden you have to pay attention to it. You have to address it. You can't keep burying those things, and gearing toward a more whole person type model is not a pill in a bottle. And unfortunately, oftentimes our healthcare system, one that I'm still a part of, and I play a very great role, and I love what I do. However, navigating that space, even as a patient, is hard. And so it's the psychology of thinking that this pill will fix everything when there's so much greater length and runway that we have to deal with. And being vocal about it, being upfront about it is one of those things, because it all tags into inflammation, chronic disease, what we're talking about now with maternal deaths, especially within the African American community. All these things impact us and our health in so many ways, and it can definitely bridge into menopause and midlife as well.
Oh, awesome. Mm-hmm. We have a question from Giselle Johnson. She says, I'm approaching 51, experiencing hot flashes, and my sleep pattern is becoming a problem. What can I do besides taking melatonin?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, sleep is the new sexy. I do believe that. All right.
Say
So
that again.
sleep is the new sexy.
I love it.
Because my vision is that 5 years from now, we'll be talking about, girl, I had 10 hours. How much sleep you had? You know, versus what did you have on last night? You know what you no, I just feel like it should be something we should wear with a badge of honor instead of like, oh, I stayed up all night trying to do this. No. Right? Because it really does factor. Actually, it's the only time that our brain gets a chance to detox and consolidate memory and store new information the best. Because think of all the other distractions that you have during the day when you're still consuming new information. So, so let's back up a little bit. So a lot of the next couple of things is what I want you, Giselle, to think about is, am I having problems falling asleep, or is it I can fall asleep? It's just the duration of my sleep. All right. Or am I getting up several times because of the hot flushes, or because I'm going to the bathroom, or do I have a disruptive person in my bed that may cause that? Another thing could be, did I take a nap? How much caffeine did I have that day? Because certain things we drink, alcohol, especially for those who may have a casual glass of wine before they go to bed, actually can disrupt your sleep later on as well. You see that more in midlife or menopause and above. So these are things, just sample questions that would need to be something to dig into to kind of make sure that where we're going with your sleep pattern. And also stress is a major impact. And so when I use that definition, I'm someone that believes you can use stress for good, but then if it reaches a certain point, that breaking point, then it can work against you rather than for you, because the same adrenaline that we need to stop, before we hit somebody in a car or something like that, though that's a stress response. So when we think about melatonin, it is, so I can fall asleep. So what I'm getting is that you may have a more disruptive sleep pattern throughout the night. So melatonin is not only a powerful antioxidant, but it's also known as a hormone that's produced by a gland in our body that helps with inducing sleep or helping with sleep. And so one of the things that I often do is let's clean sleep hygiene, right? And what I mean by that is hygiene means physically cleaning things up. So setting up a bedtime routine, because if we're still driven until we plop on our pillow at night, then we really haven't calmed our nervous system. All right. And essentially, I'm an OB, and we follow babies' heart rates in labor because labor is stressful. And so that's why I'm so keen into femtech, or technology around women's health, because there's so many things that are being grouped around technology and stressors, because that can be determinants of health and performance indicators. I bring that in is because I don't know, Giselle, how, what's been going on in a day, but those things we can control might be hygiene of making sure that you've cleaned, you're in a dark room, no light. I love eye masks. I think I sleep with one religiously. Making sure that we disconnected from our iPads, our iPhones. So someone asked me before, but the what do you call it? The shift light, whatever it is on the iPhone, where you can shift to night shift mode or something like that. But when you think about it, your brain is still active, right? So if you're thumbing and scrolling, it's like your brain hadn't calmed down, even though the light sensor, apparently the blue sensitivity of the light has changed. It's still altering our natural melatonin drop and other factors in our body that helps us have a more restful sleep. Another thing, making sure you have a cool room. It doesn't have to be cold, but definitely something comfortable. And also make sure you're doing something, that can really make your body happy, releasing oxytocin, which is the love hugging hormone. So whether it's, hey, meditation, prayer, I'm grateful, or just something in an exercise where you're not scrolling and looking at somebody on Facebook and Instagram. Is telling your body we're ready. And then I'm a big fan of thinking about sleep as preparing on the top of your day versus always the end of your day. And that's when you wake up, make sure you have natural sunlight. That actually sets our internal clocks, our biological clocks. So it sets certain rhythms in our body to be ready for bed later. Excuse me. And the third thing is really removing those things that can cause disruptions in your sleep. So late dinners, late workouts, alcohol late, or those type of things. Really try to gear towards a bed room routine, like, oh, I'm about to go to sleep. Like I'm saying, like if you change that language, if you change that mindset, like, oh, I'm gonna go to sleep tonight,
Yes.
it just makes it like, oh,
wait to go to bed tonight.
And so, I'm an Aura Ring user, and to me that's one of the best sleep trackers out there. And but it's one of those things I don't mind wearing, because I find women, regardless of me, I don't like to wear jewelry at night, but it's one that I can at least compromise to. But it helps me track, and I can always tell when I'm on it the next day, where I feel like, or versus, I should have shut down the computer 30 minutes earlier, Good. I'm glad you love it. So spread the word.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm gonna change my mindset about that as well too. I love that. I have a question. So you talk about how the body changes and the heat flashes when you're sleeping and stuff. Is it possible that I feel like when I wake up, when it's time for me to wake up, I have a heat flash? It's like it's an automatic alarm. Like, okay, it's the same time when I get up every day, I'm having one and it's time to get up. It's weird. Is that possible?
It is possible. And so my question to you, how do you feel about it when it happens? How does it make you feel? Is it like annoying?
Yeah, annoying.
It's annoying. Does it go away, or it kind of persists?
I literally have to get out of the bed to get everything circulating, air circulating around me, because otherwise I'm just heating up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting, because you'll be someone that I would recommend, if it's and we don't have to dig deep into your medical history, but I would evaluate, okay, what's going on the night before? What are some things that why your temperature regulation is starting to heat up so early? But we do have a slow, what we call cortisol rise, that keeps, helps us boost that energy in the morning. And that's the hormone that can have a play a lot with dysfunctioning other things when we have high stress, but we're not going in that direction just yet. But the interesting part about it, one of the things I thought about when you said that had to do with some of the things that are coming out in the tech world. So I wondered, I was like, well, there's this bracelet that's supposed to be coming out soon that helps with hot flushes, and it's supposed to be able to trigger thermoregulation, like meaning heat sensor changes. So maybe something like that, where you don't feel like you have to take something, but something that can kind of catch you before that. There's certain clothing now that has more of the heat cooling opportunity. So maybe, it can catch you before it's like ravaging everything off of you when you wake up in the morning. Or even and even certain mattresses and sleep technology that is on the frontier or forefront. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because all of these things have individualized someone's experience, hasn't it? Right? Just really small tweaks. Someone doesn't necessarily feel like, oh, I got to go run and see what's in, a BOGO at Walgreens right quick to fix this, or something. It could be just with identifying what you need at the most. You can at least feel like you have a couple more tools in your toolkit, something else that you could try that may even help the remainder of some other problems or issues you may have.
Right. One thing we're talking about menopause, but I know a lot of people have experiences with fibroids. Can you tell us a little bit about fibroids and, maybe how they contribute to menopause, and do they really go away with menopause and all of that stuff, and any solutions, or what can we do if we do experience or have had fibroids?
So fibroids are the most common tumor that a woman can have in her lifetime, and it is benign. All right, so meaning that they're not considered cancerous. And they are very estrogen dependent. And a large part of fibroids is meaning that they can be of any size, and be located in different places in the womb. So I want to make sure people understand this is, uterus I'm talking about, even though you can have some that extend larger and encompass different other spaces within our body, even though they're connected with our womb. Common symptoms can be excessive bleeding, pelvic pain, are usually the top two, or pelvic pressure, or changes in your urinary symptoms, or etc. And they tend to impact higher amongst African Americans and Hispanic women. But it could be a reason why women may have fertility problems or issues, but not necessarily they cause menopause. So when we go back to estrogen dependency, meaning that they feed off of estrogen, and some of the components have to do with a genetic issue or defect in how they can form. Because literally, as a surgeon, with removing a fibroid, we know that even removing one can kind of see another one. So that's why the recurrence rate is like a little over 55%. Wow. But when you go through menopause and you have a shutdown of your ovaries, or a decline, I like to say, because there's always probably a little bit that you're going to be producing. And like I said, fat is metabolically active, so you can produce, excess hormones there as well. You don't have anything feeding the engine, right? And so therefore, women who go through menopause, and something we had talked about before, if your doctor said, well, maybe you can just push through this, get through menopause if your symptoms are mild, or doesn't appear something surgical as of now, it's because some of those related symptoms are going to potentially wane or go away because it doesn't have something naturally gearing that engine up. So with that, many women, even if it is like, depending on the size of it and where it's located, I've had to, for an example, someone who was menopausal with some of the same issues, same thing. Someone told her, well, just wait, this will be less. But the thing was, it was located right behind her bladder. So if anatomy wise, you have your bladder and your uterus is right behind it. Yes. And she had a big fibroid that was more on the anterior, nudging against the bladder. So what she had was a lack of moisture, keeping those muscles tight in the vagina, or some of the things. And guess what? Every time she went to do jumping jacks or physical, she just felt like she was incontinent. And it got worse and worse, because it was an anatomical problem, not really, bleeding anymore, but now it's keeping her from really functioning. So she decides to do a hysterectomy or have it removed. I think, we ended up doing a hysterectomy because of that. Because hey, this has been an issue. This has been a problem for a very long time. And now I'm not bleeding, but now I'm peeing on myself all the time. And I don't like that. And it's because of its effect on that pressure. It was pretty big and where it was located, right by the bladder. I may have hot flushes multiple times in one day, and then I may not have for weeks. Can I do something to trigger them? Oh, absolutely. So I think the best course of action would be to do a journal. Find out, what did you do differently those times when you had multiple times in a day? Was it something that you ate? Was it something that you had a stressful event around that time? And a stressful event could be anything. It could be a hollering teenager in the other room. It could be, a boss you don't like on your job, or a project and you're trying to meet a deadline. Some of those things can trigger because, remember I mentioned the hormone cortisol, which is made from what we call our adrenal glands, which is this little gland on our kidneys, but it does regulate a lot of our stress responses. And unfortunately, it's one that because we tend not to manage stress as much as we manage other things. And so what happens, this is a hormone that can take the wheel more. when the other ones aren't there to counterbalance as much because they're starting to go through their natural decline. And so when you have that can trigger or offset more hot flushes because you don't have some of these other mechanisms to do it. And she said it usually happens at work. So
it's a trigger.
Tell about what's going on at work. So.
Yeah, stress for some. It's probably stress.
Good.
So what like you said, it's not a one size fits all. Menopause is very personal, and it's something that it's going to take like a one-on-one, and like you said, having a great relationship with your doctor to understand what's best for you. So after we answer this question, I want you to tell the listening audience a little bit about your, what you offer, how they can get a hold of you. And I know you have an upcoming summit and some other things. So let's make sure we get them some future tools to connect with you before we end the show. So Elizabeth wants to know, what are your thoughts on Mona Lisa Touch, Julia, and or like the vaginal atrophy?
So for the listeners out there, she's mentioning tools that are marketed out there for the vaginal rejuvenation market. All right. So there are many reasons why someone may go through it, whether it's muscle tightness, dryness, or issues where you feel like you may not be lubricating as much or the function during sex. So trying to improve vaginally, and in some areas for some of those things out there, there is an indication for urinary incontinence because the muscles, what we call our pelvic floor, and what I mean by that, these are different muscles that we may know when we're thinking about, I had to push out a baby. But understand most times if you've had a vaginal birth, there's been a tear, there's been a defect, and your body has healed it back together. But not everybody heals the same. So with that, over time, you can have this these tears or disruptions of what we call the strengthening of our floor muscles in that area, and then put on top of it some of those hormones that support the integrity of it, like our estrogen, testosterone, even some areas where our progesterone, which is one that we did get a chance to talk about a little bit, which is more kind of like that relaxant. I call it the police to some of its estrogenic actions. But with these particular things on the market, all of them kind of do their own particular thing for those indications. With that being said, I think that if they work for you, go for it. My goal is to make sure that you're open to finding a solution for the thing that keeps you up at night, or to that thing that keeps you from getting the clarity and the confidence you need, because that is how you show up in the world. And so we were talking, I think another time we were talking about the brains. I think you have your brain here, you have your gut brain, which that's a whole nother conversation. That's your second brain. I think your vagina is your third, honestly, because when things aren't, right down there, it can really, bum your day. You just don't feel as right. And so with those type of technologies out there, and the things that are on the wave of lotions and vaginal suppositories and things that you're getting more from the product lines of the evolution of technology and women's health, are things that can still open up to, hey, this can be something that can be right for me and can make you feel like $1 million.
So these are our takeaways. So as you guys know, on Your Voice Talk Show, the whole concept is to make sure that not only do you just hear information and gain awareness, but you have at least 3 takeaways that you can take with you, as well as all the resources. So the takeaways are, number 1, understanding the right questions to ask your healthcare professional. Do you want to touch bases on these as we go through them, Dr. LaReesa?
Yes, and understand the right question to ask your healthcare professional. There's also a link that would be dropped, and it's called my WTF evaluation. And it is like WTF, but I use what to follow. Sometimes going to your healthcare provider can seem so rushed. You probably rush to get there, or rush, or kind of pissed from waiting, or your doctor might have so many patients. The dynamics could be different for everyone, but oftentimes being armed with the questions that you need for your particular situation and what you need to gain value from that visit gives you the clarity and the confidence to make your next informed decisions. That's so vital. That's so important. And making sure you take ownership of that. And so there's a link for that. The key performance indicators for optimal health and avoid mediocrity results. In this guide, I mentioned that and reasons why the 8 tests that I evaluate for what we call biologic or biomarkers. It's just really a small piece of a bigger puzzle, because there's so many other things that can be defined in that we can wrap that into 3-2, starting your personalized journey in order for you to be more of the CEO of your health, CEO of your body, and making sure you have your own board of directors looking out for you, just like, of a major company. And no one is going to be as major as yourself, right? So making sure you can key those things, following the right metrics, and knowing what are those indicators, like you would in the stock market, like you would in furnishing information for your job. These are things that make sure that you're the boss of your body. You had asked me about the summit. I am participating in a summit. It's called Real Talk for Women 50, put on by Cherie, Real Talk Women's Health Summit. And so there's a link. I'm coming up on day 15, which will be this week, but it's been 2 weeks of good information and just different ways, from sexual health to mindset changes to hormone therapy to, just different things that embody us as women. And so that's an opportunity for me there, and to visit me at Dr. LaReesa.
And everybody, all the information she's talking about the summit and the other link, we'll make sure those are in the comments. Tracy Michelle, can we go ahead and show the one link that we do have on there for the guide as well too? I'm sorry, there she is. There's the link for the summit. And again, all that information we'll make sure we have it in the chat as well for you guys. And then we have the other short link that's for the guide as well to the WTF guide, right?
Yes. And most importantly, oh my goodness. So July is my birthday month. Like I said, I just celebrated a birthday. I think.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And so one of the things, if you go to my website, www.drlareesa.com, that's DRLAREESA.com, I'm doing a birthday entry giveaway. And so one of the things that I love to do is do a consultation, what I call a deep dive, because sometimes just having a different vantage point, understanding how my integrative approach can really change your life, and most importantly, make you start thinking in that trends and in that generational changes that are happening with your body. And you can enter to win by the end of this month. And I think a winner's bid will be announced on the 3rd. So your last day to enter. And so if you go to my website, on the first page, just scroll down a little bit, and you can enter and to win a one-on-one with me, which is a 60-minute deep dive.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, this has been amazing. I learned so much. And, the biggest thing I learned is, we've evolved from how things were done in the past. We've learned so much. There's so much information out there. And so what you brought today is so much awareness to let us understand that we need to take the time and pull back the layers of the onion, which means how we're really feeling and how menopause truly is affecting us in all areas of our life, and to seek help. Please reach out to Dr. LaReesa and learn more about what you need to have a full life in menopause and after, because we still have so much life to live. Let's live our best life on purpose. Dr. LaReesa, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, audience, for being a huge part of it and asking the questions. The comments have been great. So we look forward to you guys to tune in for the next Your Voice talk show. You guys have an amazing evening. Don't forget the comments have all the information on how to reach Dr. Larissa. Take care, Dr. Larissa.
All right. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, beautiful picture.